Live from KSAT 12. The 6 o'clock news starts right now.
We begin with news of a man arrested for the murder of a 16-year-old, 31-year-old Olegario Moses Eliseo Ochoa, arrested by the U.S. Marshals Lone Star Fugitive Task Force. According to the Hays County Sheriff's Office, he was one of 3 people wanted in connection with a fatal shooting in a convenience store parking lot. It happened back on November 2nd of last year in the 700 block of High Road in Kyle. 16-year-old Donovan Sepulveda was killed. The 2 other suspects already in the Hays County Jail. Mask or no mask? It is a question put to parents and staff in the Schertz-Cibolo Universal City ISD. That's as the district's latest numbers show more than 300 active COVID-19 cases among students and staff. Tonight, many parents will be attending a school board meeting where they will discuss the results of that survey. Our Tiffany Huertas joins us live from Schertz this evening. Tiffany, this is an issue so many people feel very strongly about. So how many parents and staff responded to this poll?
Myra, more than 6,000 parents and more than 1,300 staff members responded to this poll. 64% of parents polled said they were in favor of an indoor mask mandate at elementary and intermediate schools, while 36% said they were against it. Now, when they were asked if there should be indoor mask mandates at junior and high school, 60% of parents polled said they approved, compared to 40% who were against it.
If we can at least have the mask or something to prevent a little bit of a spread, I'm for it.
The masks are ineffective really at their age. I mean, you see kids touching them, pulling them down.
61% of staff said they were in favor of a mask mandate at elementary and intermediate schools, compared to 39% who said they were against it. 55% of staff members said they approved indoor mask mandates at junior and high schools. 45% opposed. A school board meeting is being held right now at Clemens High School, where this will be discussed. Community members will have the opportunity to speak on this issue tonight. A discussion and possible action will be taken tonight regarding face masks. We do have a news crew inside the meeting right now, and we will have the latest tonight on the Night Beat. Tiffany Huertas, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, Tiffany. There is also a COVID-19 surge in testing. This becoming apparent in the breakdown of cases offered by Mayor Ron Nierenberg in the latest briefing yesterday. He says while the COVID-19 positivity rate is down 3 points from last week, it's only due to the increase in those getting tested, a number that is climbing fast. Ursula Perry reports if you're planning to join them, plan on a wait.
There's no doubt about it. This COVID testing site, which was all but deserted mere weeks ago, is inundated today.
It's crazy. It's wrapped almost 2 blocks.
Maybe like 2 months ago or so, empty. Like you wouldn't really see any lines, and now it's getting really bad.
These patients waiting for a nasal swab test, hoping for the best, but some already know they're in trouble.
She was sick, so I had to come and bring all my siblings.
You had to bring everybody.
Yes.
Some are here because of their job.
I tested positive, and now that I'm going for a job, I just have to get clarification that I am negative, since I'll be working with children.
Her next stop, a vaccination.
I think I'm just going to go get the shot. I mean, I am lucky, I'm blessed that I really didn't have horrible symptoms.
As the day has gone on, this line has gotten longer and longer and longer. Most of the people in it, though, say they're here because they're just not feeling well, and they may have been exposed.
There are a number of worried moms in this line. This 3-year-old got infected after exposure at her daycare. Now everyone here must be tested.
I'm a nurse, so out of caution, just getting tested to make sure before I go expose, any of my patients or whatever. So yeah, just kind of trusting in God, and that's all you can do right now.
A carload of concern, but all hoping for the best. Ursula Perry, KSAT 12 News.
New at 6, a major change to Texas gun laws goes into effect next week on September 1st. Commonly called constitutional carry, Texans 21 years and older who are allowed to own a handgun will no longer need a license to carry it. Our Garrett Berger talked with an instructor and range owner about what that will look like.
As his customers take aim at targets, Lone Star handgun owner Josh Felker thinks the state legislature has already hit the mark with the introduction of constitutional carry.
That right shall not be infringed is a big deal. You shouldn't have to have a license to carry a firearm.
Currently, to carry a handgun, either concealed or openly, Texans have to get a license to carry, which includes a background check, classroom training, and a range qualification. Come September 1st, that license will be optional.
There's still advantages to having that license to carry, but it got rid of the necessity for the most part.
And he's already seen the result when it comes to his training courses. Felker says this classroom at his facility can hold up to 60 people. And he says in the run-up to September 1st, they aren't seeing those kind of numbers.
On a normal month, we teach between about 200 people on license to carry stuff. That's significantly dropped. We've had about a 60 to 70% reduction since constitutional carry passed.
Out on the range, Brandon Riley has his license to carry and supports others carrying guns too. But he thinks the education is necessary.
I just feel that you should have some type of training or some type of class so that you know the laws and know what you can and can't, when to use it and when not to use it.
There are still limits on where you're allowed to carry handguns, and the new law draws some distinctions between licensed and unlicensed carriers. For example, a license is still required for carrying on college campuses. And Felker says whether or not you go for a license to carry, he recommends getting some kind of training.
Just make sure you're getting quality information versus misinformation, because the misinformation can still find you in court, can still find you with a ticketable offense, can still find you in jail for the rest of your life.
Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
A world champion boxer in legal trouble in San Antonio after police say he robbed a bar on the far northwest side. Jamal Charlo left the Bexar County Courthouse this morning posting bond after he surrendered to police. He's charged with several counts of felony robbery. Last month, police say Charlo was at a bar on UTSA Boulevard where he assaulted a server and took off with her tips after his credit card was repeatedly denied. Charlo was in town for his twin brother's fight at the AT&T Center. He is now out on bonds totaling $15,000. San Antonio police trying to track down a suspect in a shooting on the city's south side. Officers called to the 500 block of Linda Lou Drive a little before 4 this morning. That's where they found a man lying in the street. He'd been shot in the back. He told officers he was walking on South Pine when someone shot him from behind. After he was shot, police say he kept on walking, tapping on windows of homes, trying to get some help. Someone finally called police when they heard that man yelling in the street. He told officers he did not see the person who shot him. New at 6, the late Georgia Congressman John Lewis didn't live to see a bill pass that would strengthen the Voting Rights Act that he championed decades ago. Yesterday's vote in the U.S. House came as Texas is on the verge of passing a bill that many say restricts voting, while others argue it makes voting more accessible. Jesse DeGollado tells us what the passage of this federal legislation and its expected defeat in the Senate will mean to states like Texas.
On this vote, the yeas are 219, the nays are 212. The bill is passed.
Named after the late civil rights icon and why he endured the beatings, the U.S. House passed the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. It's the other reason why Texas Democrats broke quorum and went to the nation's capital.
So for them, I suppose it must be a huge victory.
For the time being, certainly, it shows that they've definitely had an impact on the national party, and that's definitely significant.
Still, its fate in the Senate is uncertain at best, if it goes down as many predict.
In the end, the states would be allowed to conduct their own elections in the ways that they saw fit.
Texas is about to become the latest state to adopt changes in the name of voting integrity, changes considered by critics as a form of voter suppression. Speaking as a political scientist,
overall, voting rights are definitely under threat in the United States right now.
Any changes in voting enacted by states like Texas with a history of discrimination would have to be pre-cleared by the federal government under the John Lewis Act, using an updated version of what the U.S. Supreme Court threw out in 2013. But with its future dim, the A&M political expert sees grassroots campaigns like that of Beto O'Rourke as a way of voters to make their voices heard, whatever their stance.
That's a very positive sign for U.S. democracy, but it's going to be hard work for them.
Jesse DeGollado, KSAT 12 News.
Let's take a look at traffic this evening. This is the TransGuide camera here at 281 in Hildebrand. You can see northbound, southbound, even the access roads. Things smooth sailing as people head home from work. In Seguin, there is a place for foster kids to escape, a place meant to give them a break from being wrapped up in a system fraught with challenges and uncertainty. It's called Ivy Family Farms. Our cameras took a trip there as part of our newest episode of KSAT Explains, out now, which dives into the Texas foster care system, how it's supposed to work, and what got us to where we are today, a place many who work in that field call a crisis point. But here, the goal is to forget that, if only for a time, so kids can focus on being kids.
We start with Claudine and Olive. She doesn't really like carrots, she likes chips.
For the past year, Shannon Ivy and her family have been hosting foster children on their farm on weekends.
Kids do exactly what you did, which is all these like weird chickens and things are running at you and they just, and that ridiculousness, and they just start laughing. And so invariably kids get disarmed almost immediately and they start laughing, and they just, our whole goal when they come out here is for them just to be kids, because they have been through the institution over and over and over again.
Shannon is an adoptive mom, an outspoken advocate for foster kids. She and her husband got the idea to start a care farm after seeing the difference it made in their own kids who have multiple diagnoses.
We would go out to my dad's farm and I would be a mess because I don't know what to do. I'm not doing it right, you know. And my dad looked at Stephen and I and said, you know, sometimes, Shannon, kids just need to dig a hole in the dirt. And I was like, oh, they need therapy and all of these other things, which they do. But he was right, because after my kids would go out to his 10-acre farm in Stockdale, they were better for a week and they were more calm.
Here on their own farm, kids can feed the animals, gather eggs, plant, growing something for the future.
We generally put them on the back of the tractor and we come out here and we talk about vision, because a lot of the kids get stuck in the moment that they're in right now and they think that that's all that it's ever going to be.
Ivy herself has hopes for the future as well.
So ultimately, we would love to do this full time because we know that it works.
That just a glimpse of Shannon Ivy's story. You can find out more in the newest episode of KSAT Explains, examining the Texas foster care system and the future of foster care here in Bexar County. Right now on our website at ksat.com/explains. You can also stream the episode on the KSAT TV app on demand. Take a look outside with live cam this evening. 95 degrees, another hot one, but we've got some rain chances to talk about.
Yeah, even some downpours out there right now in some parts of our area, and some daily rain chances going forward here. The aquifer took another big hit today. It's been on a steady decline with our dry stretch here the past couple of weeks. It's down 0.8 of a foot, but we're still about 1.5 feet above average, so at least we have that. But it would be nice to have a splash of rain. You can look at the temperatures and tell where we've had some rain. 82 right now in Pleasanton, some rain-cooled air there. Elsewhere, well into the 90s. Here's a look at the rain over the past hour, or 2 hours, I should say, moving through Atascosa County, crossing over I-35 south of town. Even a few popping up in Bexar County. Closer look at this. And of course, a big update on the tropics. We're tracking some development there and the potential storm in the Gulf of Mexico for the days ahead. Complete update on that coming up.
Take a look outside with Sky 12, flying high above the botanical gardens this evening. Things still looking green out there, but the key is going to be keeping them that way, so we know we could use a little drink of water at them.
Yeah, some of it's starting to look a little brown and crusty. Some of the grass turning into straw. You know how quickly that could happen this time of year.
We're doing pretty good.
Exactly.
I mean, all things considered, right?
I'm not going to complain.
Okay.
But I get greedy.
I know, it's hard not to.
You get a taste of a good thing and you want a little bit more. You want another bite of that nice dessert, and we've had that dessert for a pretty good amount here this spring and now into the summer. Rain chances are back in the picture now. I know we've had a little bit of a dry stretch here for a couple of weeks, but you look at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, more pop-up afternoon showers here and there. So at least we've got some chance. Is it significant? No, but it's better than nothing. Kind of like what we see on the radar right now. Take a look at this, and there's a little bit of activity out there. This is over the past couple of hours, and it's highly isolated or widely separated. however you want to word it. A little bit of it in Lavaca County, fairly short-lived. Had a lot of lightning and thunder as it moved into Lavaca County. Now that it has since dissipated and just a few showers left over, that's going to continue to die down. Outside of Shiners, a little bit of activity. Gonzales County getting clipped by some. That's over the past hour, and particularly moving from the Poteet, Pleasanton, Jourdanton, even Charlotte area, moving out of Atascosa County, pushing to the northwest. Now, some of this activity has had a history of dropping about 1/4 inch of rain, so better than nothing. This little cluster right here just crossed over I-35, quick splash and dash. One little stroke of lightning with it right now, so a little bit of lightning and thunder. This continues to move off to the northwest, and Castroville, you may just get clipped by a brief shower. If this can hold together, Hondo, you'd get it by about 6:35 p.m. give or take. You look farther south of town down I-35, and especially in LaSalle County, a few hit or miss isolated downpours. These are short-lived. They're by sunset, they're all going to be coming to an end and will clear out. But here's our futurecast for tomorrow. And we're going to get back into a pattern where we see those daily random pop-up downpours here and there. And you notice how we're not expecting anything too widespread. Nonetheless, some hit or miss showers every afternoon. We at least have the opportunity going forward tomorrow all the way through the upcoming weekend. And during the nighttime hours, generally the activity tapering off and the sky clearing. What we're watching beyond the weekend is the tropics. Okay, right now we don't have any rain chances from a potential system in the Gulf of Mexico, but that may change. It's still early. What we're watching is this very unorganized area of thunderstorms in the Caribbean. This does have the likelihood of coming together and organizing into the next tropical cyclone, possibly even a tropical storm, maybe a hurricane. And there's a chance that might not even really happen until it gets into the Gulf of Mexico by this upcoming weekend. Here's a look at the latest from the computer models. And you have to look at this just with an open mind and take it with a grain of salt. This system is still very young. It hasn't even developed into a storm yet. We can't even measure it yet. So getting an accurate picture of what's going to happen is pretty unrealistic. But this is what we're being told right now. And you look at the big spread here. By Monday, Tuesday, we could have landfall somewhere between Texas and Louisiana, maybe even Mississippi and Florida, okay? So from about Destin all the way to Houston, there's that potential. It's a pretty wide swath, more than a 500-mile difference between those computer models. So a pretty big spread there in the possibilities. Obviously, we'd like to have more answers right now, too, but it's just going to take some time. That's the nature of the science of meteorology as it stands. 97 our high today. That's 2 degrees above average. We have yet to hit 100 so far this year. Got to knock on the wood. 94 degrees. I know some of you like the heat, so I apologize to you if you love it. Go to Cotulla, 100 degrees there. Del Rio hit 100 earlier today. This evening, those showers coming to an end by sunset clearing. Not much of a breeze, falling through the 80s. Tomorrow, 77 in the morning. 96 by the afternoon, partly cloudy, and temperatures actually really just mid-90s for the foreseeable future.
All right, thank you, Adam. Let's turn to sports now. Larry here in the studio to talk about a familiar face joining the Spurs.
Yeah, Bryn Forbes left for one season, shot the best three-point percentage of his career, and helped the Bucks win the NBA championship. And now he is back with the silver and black, and the young man is ready to play with the Spurs again. Plus, in college football, the Aggies have named a starting quarterback. Coming up. Shooting guard Bryn Forbes is officially back with the Spurs. The team sent an email at 3:13 this afternoon to announce the signing. Forbes spent the first 4 years of his NBA career with the silver and black before leaving last season for the Bucks, where he won an NBA championship. In his lone year in Milwaukee, he averaged 10 points per game. Forbes is happy to be back in SA and ready to get to work.
This is like my second home. You know, it feels great to be back, and you know, in the organization I started with and learned a lot from, and part of what helped me grow in so many ways, not just basketball, but in life. I'm just excited to get back to it and get back to work with these guys and you know, try and do some good stuff.
Forbes was one of 3 players in the league to make more than 153 pointers while shooting at least 45% last season. He will wear number 7 for the Spurs. Redshirt freshman Haynes King today was named Texas A&M starting quarterback by head coach Jimbo Fisher. Coach made the announcement while talking with ESPN Radio Houston. King beat out sophomore Zach Calzada for the job. Last season, King played in 2 games, making his debut against then number 2 Alabama, and he went 1 for 3 for 17 yards and 1 interception. He's taken over for 4-year starter Kellen Mond, who's now in the NFL with the Vikings. There is still no word out of Austin about the Longhorns starting quarterback. Coach Sarkisian might know, but that doesn't mean he's going to alert the media right away. Hudson Card and Casey Thompson are battling for QB1. This week, Sark was asked, in a perfect world, when will he name his starting quarterback?
The ideal world is, sooner rather than later, right? I mean, if I can put my head down on the pillow tonight and know who that starter is, that's great. That doesn't mean I have to tell you guys and announce it, but I may know, right? But, that would be ideal.
According to Chip Brown with Horns 24/7, key indicators point to Hudson Card being named starting quarterback for Texas. And Texas State football recently held its media day, and that gave us a chance to talk with former Brennan High School running back Jamil Jeter, a transfer from Oklahoma State. Jeter rushed for 329 yards last season to go with 3 touchdowns, and he was asked what are some things he tried to improve on during the offseason.
Really, the main thing is just my blocking and finishing the runs. I can always get better at reading the holes and stuff, catching, but it comes down to protecting the quarterback, and so he won't get hurt because we need him.
Brock Sturgis, Calvin Hill, and Jeter form a 3-headed monster in the Bobcats' backfield. The Canyon Cougarettes volleyball team opened District 26 5A play with an impressive road victory against Bernie Champion last night, 3-1. Senior Kyla Malone was a difference maker with a team-high 19 kills. The Cougarettes advanced all the way to the Class 5A regional final last season before falling to Dripping Springs. This year, the roster looks a little different, but the team showed they have plenty of composure in dominating their final 2 sets against the Chargers, 25-9 and 25-11.
We lost a big class. We lost a starting middle, a starting libero, and a starting setter, but we picked it up. Like, everyone has stepped up into huge roles, so I'm super appreciative of my team, and they are absolutely amazing. We know we have a huge target on our back. Everybody's going to want to come and get us because we went to round 5, so that we just need to elevate our play and stay at that steady level.
Canyon gets a rematch against Dripping Springs next Tuesday, August 31st at home at 7 p.m. Myra?
All right. Thank you, Larry. Our KSAT Q&A is coming up next. In today's KSAT Q&A, it is Wednesday, so we are joined by San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg to talk about a variety of topics, from masks to vaccines to the vaccination rate in our community. Let's get right to it, Mayor. Thanks for being here. First of all, I wanted to ask you about sort of the caveat you gave to what seemed like encouraging news in yesterday's COVID briefing, that our positivity rate has dropped. It is now around 13%, a 3% decrease from last week. But you gave a word of caution there, saying there's something we need to keep in mind when looking at that number. Can you explain that?
Sure. Yeah. The positivity rate is one indicator of many that we look to see with the severity of COVID-19 in our community. And we've cautioned that from the very beginning, that we have several different indicators that we look at consistently. And obviously, we like to see them move in the right direction. When we have one go in the right direction, that's good, but we need to see others. And right now, the hospitalizations are still very high. Our new admissions are still well over 100. I think it was about 150 today in the last 24 hours. And also something that's critical in terms of the hospital stress and the stress on the overall medical system is that our EMS responses, the number of units that are out and how many responses, calls that they have to go for COVID-related causes is at an all-time high. It's remained that way. And in fact, for a few minutes today, we were again out of EMS units to respond to medical emergencies because of the large number of calls for COVID-related cases. So there are some things moving in the right direction. Positivity rate is one, and some of that has to do with more testing happening. But again, the overall situation in San Antonio with regard to COVID-19 is severe, and that is our current risk level.
That is so eye-opening that for at least a second time that we know of now, there have been no EMS units available for the entire city of San Antonio, city of more than 1 million people.
That's right. For a few minutes today, that's the condition that we were in because of the large number of calls that were going on. And, obviously we have to scramble resources, and there are other alternatives that the fire department has to deploy. But the overall picture here is that our medical system, which EMS is a vital part of that, is under severe stress because of the caseload that they're having to respond to. And that's why we keep emphasizing again, over and over again, the tools that we have to prevent this preventable sickness and death that's occurring as a result of the Delta variant. And that is, if you're eligible to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. That's number one. The second is, regardless of your vaccine status, we have to slow down the transmission of this virus, and we do that by wearing masks.
And let's talk about masks, something a lot of people, especially parents, teachers, school staff, paying attention to right now. So we know that the state is now looking to the Texas Supreme Court to make a ruling on the city's current injunction in place that allows for masks to be required in schools. We know the Supreme Court already ruled against the restraining order that preceded that. So if the Supreme Court sides with the state on this mask requirement, will that be the end of the requirement in San Antonio?
Well, sure, and I don't believe so. So let's take a look at some facts for a minute. There's been over 70 independent school districts all across this state that have already implemented their own mask mandates, knowing that they potentially could be at legal risk because of a governor and an AG that are quite simply pandering instead of protecting people. So what we are making sure people understand is that regardless of the debates that are going on in the court system, which are about the governor's unconstitutional use of his emergency powers, restricting local public health authorities from doing what they have to do to mitigate the disaster, regardless of the debate about that, the debate over the science of mask wearing and vaccines is not up for debate. There is no disputing the facts. Masks work, vaccines work. If we want to put an end to the pandemic, we're going to use them. And that's why they ought to be mandated in congregate settings, large facilities that have lots of people who are in there that are not eligible to be vaccinated, particularly, again, the young people under 12. And people in close quarters. If we want to protect each other, slow down the transmission of the virus, and save lives, we need to get vaccinated and we need to use masks. And that is not up for debate.
The governor's executive order that prevented a mask mandate in schools also said that no vaccine mandates could be made for vaccines under an emergency use authorization. There was a new executive order today from the governor's office saying that now applies to vaccines, even if they have full FDA approval, which we know Pfizer met that standard this week. So is a vaccine mandate something the city is considering for employees? And if so, is this latest executive order one the city would fight?
So, what the governor has done with GA 39 and now changing the order that he put in place to restrict emergency use authorized vaccines, now restricting mandates on fully authorized FDA approved vaccines, is really a head scratcher, considering the fact that we have vaccine mandates for a lot of things to keep people safe. I don't know what his intentions are. They are clearly not what ours are, which are about protecting communities. Now, with regard to vaccine mandates in government institutions like the city or the county or any place like that, what the city and the county have done with employees so far has to incentivize for employees getting vaccinated as quickly as possible. That's what our city manager has implemented thus far. Obviously, we're going to take a look at the vaccine rates and do what we need to do to ensure that our employees and the public are protected. And we know that is to make sure that our vaccination rates get up as high as they can and ultimately up to 100%.
And let's talk about the vaccination rate for our entire community. You've said there might be a bit of confusion there when we're looking at that number.
With regard to the vaccine, absolutely, vaccine rate. So a lot of people will look at, the federal administration goal of getting the 70% vaccination rate and we got there a couple of months ago. But what that number represents is those who are eligible for the vaccine. If you take a look at total population, which is what we need to be looking at for herd immunity, it's much lower than that. It's roughly around 50% for the community here in San Antonio. And why that's important is that we have a large swath of our population that is simply not eligible for the vaccine, including about 20% of our population who are 12 and younger and who are not eligible for the vaccine. So if you look at the overall population who are vaccinated, it's closer to 50%. And that's, again, very important because we know that in order to get to herd immunity, we have a lot of work to do. And it starts with everyone who is eligible going to get vaccinated. We've got some work to do. And if you are one of those folks who have not gotten vaccinated yet but are eligible, please go do it now, because the longer you sit on the sidelines, the more you prolong this crisis for everyone.
And we should mention once again, there are so many opportunities all around town to get that vaccine, which again is free. Mayor Ron Nierenberg,
Free, safe, and effective.
Thanks, Mayor,
Thank
for
you,
your
Mara.
time. As always, we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much, Mara. Have a good night.
You too. We'll be right back. Coming up 1 week from today, we will be live streaming a KSAT community town hall to kick off Hunger Action Month. Max Massey and Sarah Acosta will be your hosts, and will be joined by San Antonio Food Bank CEO Eric Cooper, along with experts on food insecurity in Bexar County. We also want to hear from you. If you have any questions about food insecurity, you can submit those right now on our website at ksat.com. That town hall will be Wednesday, September 1st at 2 p.m. on our website and the KSAT streaming app. Let's take a look outside with live cam. We've dropped 1 whole degree since we last checked in with things out here, but some people, Adam, lucky enough to see some rain.
Yeah, a few folks actually getting in on some downpours. Most of that activity is coming to an end as we speak, but there still are a few showers out there that we'll take a close look at in a moment. We still have that 20% chance through about 8 o'clock. And then I think the sky just clears out and we don't have a shot of rain overnight. Temperatures 94 now, gradually falling down into and through the 80s. We'll start the day tomorrow in the 70s. We'll be back to talk about the tropics, the system we're watching, when it could get into the Gulf of Mexico, and what the computer models are saying right now coming up.
In the buzz today, Krispy Kreme is doubling down on its offer to get people vaccinated against COVID-19. Customers with proof of vaccination already can get a free donut every day for the whole year. Well, now the FDA has approved the Pfizer vaccine, and Krispy Kreme is sweetening the deal. From August 30th to September 5th, it is giving away 2 donuts a day to people who can prove they've gotten the shots. It's even making heart-shaped ones to celebrate that. Today is the 105th anniversary of the creation of the National Park Service. That makes it National Park Service Founders Day. President Woodrow Wilson authorized the service on August 25th, 1916. The day honors the National Park System's preservation and conservation efforts. The service, which is part of the Interior Department, started with 35 parks and monuments. It oversees 400 sites across all 50 states, U.S. territories, and Washington, D.C., and that adds up to 84 million acres. Some of those parks on my bucket list.
Oh, yes.
I thought you would feel the same way.
Yeah, you know my thoughts on that. Big Bend National Park, one of the least visited national parks, according to what I've read. Because it's so far off the beaten track, right? You have to, and especially for the rest of the nation, take advantage of that. Such an amazing place. Just a handful of hours away from us here. Very worth it. Oh, I could go on and on. Now you've started me again, Myra. You got me going. All right, a few pop-up showers. They're back, and they're going to be back pretty much every afternoon through the weekend. We're really closely tracking the tropics and a system that's likely to start coming together soon. I'll give you the updated spaghetti plots there from the computer models. And you have to look at them with some skepticism still this far out, but we'll get into that in a moment. First of all, some rain that's still lingering. Take a look at the radar over the past hour. Lavaca County, just outside of Hallettsville. Yeah, most of that activity coming to an end. One little downpour just south of Shiner now. And then we actually just had this fresh development right on the Wilson and Karnes County lines there. A little bit of lightning and thunder just outside of Falls City. That downpour slowly drifting to the northwest. I don't anticipate it to really last a whole lot longer, but it is the healthiest one out there at the moment. Elsewhere, the little cluster that crossed I-35 just south of town really falling apart before it can make it to Castroville. And I know between Hondo and D'Hanis, a few little downpours, but they've been brief. Splash and dash, LaSalle County, McMullen County, seen a little bit of activity, but overall, not a whole lot to speak of. And we're going to have a similar pattern as we go into tomorrow. You look at the overall weather pattern and the upper level high centered over North Texas, that's going to continue to break down and it's going to split a bit as well in the days ahead. And that's going to help favor these random pop-up hit or miss isolated showers just during the afternoon hours for about a 4-hour span tomorrow through the upcoming weekend. Start the day sunny tomorrow. Futurecast indicates that as well. Some fair weather clouds by the midday, a few isolated showers developing then into the afternoon and early evening. They'll be hit or miss, fairly random in nature of where they exactly pop up. And we'll especially be watching for some of those outflow boundaries as those can act as the triggering mechanism for other storms down the line. So something we'll watch, but the coverage is going to be pretty limited. So don't get your hopes too high. You'll still likely have to give the garden a fresh splash of water from the hose. We're looking at 30% chance here tomorrow afternoon, then every afternoon through Sunday. Into early next week, we're watching the tropics. And of course, it's the same system that's still very unorganized, but the same cluster of rain and a few thunderstorms in the Caribbean. This is slowly drifting westward and likely to develop into our next tropical cyclone. So that would mean tropical depression, maybe tropical storm, potentially a hurricane. But the key is, once this gets into the Gulf of Mexico by about Sunday, that's when conditions should be favorable for even further development. So that's what we're watching closely. And here's a good way to look at this. You look at these spaghetti plots, as I said before, you got to be a little skeptical of these this far out. And one of the main reasons I say that is not just because of the time period, but because this storm hasn't even formed yet. We're trying to predict something that isn't even a thing yet. Okay, so we can't really measure it. We need it to come together and really get that center of circulation and that spin and become more defined to really have our computer guidance get a good grasp of it. But nonetheless, you look at this and here's the spread. We're looking at about 365 miles of shoreline. 565 miles of shoreline. Here, the difference in those computer models of where this could make landfall along the Gulf Coast. So obviously still a lot of uncertainty. We'll clearly keep a close eye on it and keep you updated. And I'll have another update live on our KSAT Weather Authority app. I'm going to get into that in more detail coming up starting at about 7:05 p.m. I love that we can stream live straight to our app from right here in the studio, right in the palm of your hand. I'm getting started again, Myra, at 94 degrees right now. And for the most part, we're well into the 90s. Of course, just flirting with 100 in a few spots. Cotulla's at 100, 90 though in Rock Springs and 91 in Fredericksburg. We'll start the day tomorrow in the 70s, with the exception of Del Rio, morning low around 80 degrees, but 75 Canyon Lake, 75 in Pleasanton. Hondo tomorrow afternoon making it to 95. Most of us in the mid 90s, some locations lower 90s, especially around the hill country. Bernie 92, Timberwood Park 93, but Elmendorf 96. And overall, Myra, I know you like to keep your eye on that benchmark triple digit, and we're likely to stay below that for the time being.
All right. Let's just keep it going, shall we? Right?
I'm all for it.
In case you missed it, coming up next. Here's today's In Case You Missed It.
Cibolo Universal City ISD sent parents and staff in the district a survey wanting their opinions on a mandatory mask mandate. A total of 6,717 parents responded. 64% of parents polled said they were in favor of an indoor mask mandate at elementary and intermediate schools.
Governmental entities in Texas can no longer mandate any COVID vaccines after Governor Greg Abbott signed a new executive order just today. The previous order was only for vaccines under FDA emergency use. Manhunt is on for a second suspect in connection with a fatal shooting at the Boom Boom Sports Bar on the east side. Take a look at your screen. San Antonio police need your help identifying this guy. who they believe is involved in the shooting that left 3 people dead and 2 others critically wounded. Military troops must immediately get the COVID vaccine. That's according to a memo just released today by the Defense Secretary. Now the Pfizer vaccine has received full approval from the Food and Drug Administration. The Defense Department is adding it to the list of required shots troops must get as part of their military service. Hospitalizations are at their highest level in 7 months, with more than 100,000 patients currently admitted with the virus nationwide. Johnson & Johnson says a new study finds that a booster shot of its vaccine increases the level of antibodies against COVID-19 9-fold. Prior research indicated immunity from the single-shot vaccines lasts at least 6 months.
All right, so tomorrow we're going to start the day sunny, 77, then just your typical fair weather clouds, some of which will blossom into a few showers and thunderstorms. Don't get your hopes too high. These are going to be isolated, quick splash and dash, but some fortunate folks out there could actually pick up a quick quarter to half an inch. So cross your fingers, but coverage will be limited, and we're not looking at 100.
All right, thanks, Adam. Thanks for watching the news at 6. We'll see you back here for the Night Beat at 10.